Can anyone tell me where it is?
Oh, wow.
I want to say up in our mountains somewhere.
You are correct.
Yeah.
Wow.
Going over Stevens Pass?
Tumwater Canyon.
Okay. Yeah. I couldn't think of the name, but I've been there.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, we'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Got the flag for us, Tony?
Yeah, I was here.
We'll use the flag we have in City Council, even though you all can't see it.
Here it comes.
I
Okay.
pledge allegiance to the
To the
flag
flag
of
of
the
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tony. Hopefully that's the only technical glitch we have this evening. Wendy, do you want to take the roll call?
Mike Hobson. Mike Hobson.
Here.
Michelle Blythe.
Here.
Jen Schweddy.
Here,
Marilyn Bertley.
Here.
Jessica Stickles.
Here.
Deborah Nelson.
Here.
Don Vanny.
Here.
Madam Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
question?
Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, and we did have some members of the public that wanted to make comment this evening. I'm not sure if they're on the line, but I'll call the names and you guys can let me know. Erica Knapp.
Here. Here.
Erica, would you please state your name and your address for the record?
Yes, I'm Erica Knapp, and my address is 6829 Bovee Lane, and that's in Arlington.
Thank you. Go ahead with your comment.
Okay, so this is regarding the flags. That was a lot of discussion last week, the thin blue line flags. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen today. I wanted to state that in the past, I have been in support of the thin blue line flags. I've flown them and I felt a sense of unity with others when I saw their flags. But over the last few years, I have watched the symbolism of the flags change. I have gone to sign wavings and peaceful marches and have been met with threats and intimidation from folks waving various flags, including the thin blue line. And I've watched my friends and their marches and seen folks standing on the other side of the street with their assault rifles and thin blue line flags in full view. And none of us carry weapons at the marches. And for many of us here and around the country, the flag has become a source of anxiety and division. And it's heartbreaking for me to no longer feel a sense of unity when I see it. I am in support of honoring the fallen and respecting our current officers. I know there are many creative ways we can show them our full support. I would like to invite the City Council to ignite their curiosity, show their bravery, and look at the parts of our community that may be unfamiliar. Listen to the folks with opposing views. I commend the brave ones who are reaching up and speaking out. The Arlington community is relying on the City Council to represent all parts. We have all experienced some sort of bullying in our lives, but have any of you been discriminated against simply because of the color of your skin? If you have, how was it resolved? It must take someone else willing to stand up and help resolve the issue. My call to action for you today is to find a unifying resolution instead of a decision that continues to divide this community. I do have confidence in the Arlington community. I have watched us pull together for issues large and small. I have been encouraged as recently the city has started to become more inclusive. You are starting to recognize inequities and prejudice and are realizing we are stronger together. As an alternative to the flags, I would like to suggest events with more community involvement, such as a banner that kids can put their painted handprints on, or a program called Postcards for Police, where the city has pre-made postcards for community members to fill out and mail in or drop off. There are so many creative ways to show support and be involved. Please embrace the creativity and unity and release the divide. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Erica. And next up, we have Natalie Hollifield.
I'm here.
Natalie, would you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Natalie Holyfield. My address is 17713 Hillside Court in Arlington. So I have to admit, my heart is pounding like 1,000 miles an hour right now. I was really scared to talk tonight. I didn't sign up until first thing this morning. Probably really close to right before the 9 o'clock hour at the deadline for when I'm supposed to sign up. I'm scared for a lot of reasons. There's a list out there right now, basically kind of a hit list, from a man that a lot of people that I know are on, because they've spoken out against racial injustice. This man and some of his friends carry various flags and symbols that represent, or they use to represent, their ideals. One of those flags is the flag that you guys were talking about not putting up anymore. I'm literally shaking right now because it is so scary to think that standing up and talking as a community member about something that isolates a certain population or makes a certain population within our community feel isolated would make me even think that my name or one of my friends' names would pop up on a list and that we might get doxxed, to which there's nothing that we can do. I wrote all of you this week and I only heard back from one person. Thank you for responding to my email. Thank you so much. I appreciate it beyond words. I know that you guys received probably so many emails. There were probably hundreds that you had to go through. But no response, silence, speaks volumes to me sometimes. And on a topic like this, where the community was so passionate online, I felt it important to get some kind of a response. So I'm going to read some of the things to you from my email, just to make sure that some of my thoughts are out there. Said, in light of the decision to no longer display any flag on behalf of the residents of the city of Arlington, I want to express my support for your decision. Thank you for taking a stand. A seemingly unpopular one on social media, and I'm sure your inbox. It's my understanding that some of you have been engaging in anti-racism classes and have been exploring what it means to be anti-racist. For this, I applaud you. Thank you for challenging centuries worth of ideals and possibly sitting in a bit of your own discomfort in an effort to better support all of your constituents. Thank you for caring for my children and their Black and other minority friends. Thank you for wanting to make all of Arlington feel included and not just the ones that look like they belong here. Please fly the American flag. That's the flag that we should be rallying behind. We should stand proud that with the flag, honoring our military, our police, our firefighters, our doctors and nurses, our government. This is the flag that we should be fighting to fly. If it's good enough to fly on Memorial Day and Veterans Day as a thank you to the men and women that have given their minds, bodies, and lives to protect our true freedoms, then it should be more than a satisfactory thank you to our police officers during the week that they get recognized. Erica and I have talked, and in other parts of my letter, I talked about other ways to thank our police officers. There are so many different ways. And I know that there are people that are so passionate about this flag that has only flown on our streets for 2 years. I just want you guys to know that I appreciate the decision, and there is a very large silent majority or minority that are scared to talk and won't say thank you because they don't want to be called out and they are scared in the community. I say thank you for them.
Thank you, Natalie. And we have one more, Nathan Shabbat, sorry. And I see Nathan is with us.
Hi, Nathan, would you please state your name and address for the record?
Looks like he froze.
Yeah.
There he is.
Hi there. Hi, my name is Nathan Chabot. I've been living in Arlington for roughly about 6 years now.
Excuse me, Nathan, please state your address for the record.
Yeah, 16101 Jordan Way, Arlington, Washington.
I appreciate it, thanks. Go ahead.
All right, so I want to just thank Barb Tolbert for bringing this to the table of the city council, as well as Deborah for reaching back out to me for the email that I've written in about the thin blue line flag. As I'd heard in a previous statement, it has only been flown for a couple of years within the city of Arlington. The flag has been around for a lot longer than that. I think only recently it's taken on a different meaning with the way the country is moving right now, with the speaking out against police brutality. I feel that the city has taken a stance on this matter and is, as flying the blue line flag down the streets, it feels that the city is essentially speaking for our community, in which they are taking a stance for police support during this time. The flag was not flown prior to essentially Black Lives Matter protests and things of that matter. So it feels like this city is not as welcoming as it was before, especially to people of color. I think this has largely to do with the vast majority population that is flying this flag behind their cars, at their properties. It seems to be that it's being adopted by the wrong group of people that I feel that this city represents. So I don't have a problem with people flying the flag personally. This is America and you are allowed to do as you will. But as a city, I feel that we should be coming together as a community, and if the city feels that they want to fly the thin blue line flag, then they should be willing to fly any other flag that is brought up by the community. I mean, that could be anything as pride flags, Juneteenth flags, Black Lives Matter flag, the thin green line. There's a vast majority there's a wide variety of flags that we could be flying to show support for other communities other than just the police. And as I'd heard in a previous comment, there are other ways to show support for the police, but it just feels like the thin blue line flag is taking a direct jab at the current state of this country. And I don't think that Arlington is that kind of community to do so. I didn't create a long speech. I was just kind of speaking from my heart, and I kind of just wanted you guys to know what I felt in my head. So that's really all I have for you guys. I hope that we can fly a flag that shows unity for everybody. So thank you for allowing me to speak here.
Of course. Thank you, Nathan, Natalie, and Erica. And just to let you know, there is a discussion on the flags at the end of our agenda this evening. So if you want to continue to listen in, you can hear that discussion. That completes the public comment period for this evening.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of the July 30th council retreat, August 3rd and September 14th, 2020 council meetings, and August 5th, 2020 special meeting. Also including accounts payables, approval of EFT payments and claims checks 100346 through 100459 dated August 4th, 2020 through August 17th, 2020 for the amount of $604,995.40, as well as numbers 100460 through 100578 dated August 18th, 2020 through September 8th, 2020 for the amount of $952,031.77. And also numbers 100579 through 100713 dated September 9th, 2020 through September 21st, 2020 for the amount of $239.74, and approval of payroll EFT payments and checks number 29560 through 29567 dated July 1st, 2020 through July 31st, 2020 for the amount of $1,572,912.64, and numbers 29568 through 29573 dated August 1st, 2020 through August 31st, 2020 for the amount of $1,465,848.23, as well as the contract for banking services and the resolution waiving bidding requirements for wastewater purchase.
Second.
Question?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good job, Jessica.
Agreed. Okay, so our first item of new business this evening is establishing an online marketplace to support small businesses using the CARES Act funding. Sarah Lopez.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of City Council. So we are proposing an online marketplace for Arlington businesses called shoplocalArlington.com. An Arlington online local marketplace is a location where small businesses can upload their products, services, and offerings, and consumers can scroll through the online marketplace and place their orders directly with the businesses. The Stille Valley Chamber of Commerce is willing to contract with this company called Support Local for 1 year, and they will provide the platform for approximately 100 businesses. The cost to do this is $9,500, and we would like to authorize the CARES funding to pay for this with a total project cost of $22,000. The Chamber of Commerce will provide technical support and assistance, and advertising for an additional $10,000. And again, the total project cost is $22,000. And we would like to launch the project October of this year.
Thank you, Sarah. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I see Jan.
Yeah, Sarah, have you, when you're talking to the business people downtown, are they pretty excited about this?
We haven't actually talked to a lot of
Oh.
businesses about it until we for sure get the funding.
Oh, okay.
So
Could you update us when you find out how they're feeling about it?
sure. And part of this project will be monthly updates from the chamber so that we can share with you.
Okay, real good. Thank you.
Jessica, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I want to say I'm pretty familiar with this website now, and I will say there are other cities looking into doing it. So I'm excited that Arlington's on the forefront. And it's a fantastic way for our small businesses to have a way to get online, because a lot of them don't have the capacity or the knowledge. And so this is going to be an avenue for them to get to the digital marketplace. So I'm really excited to see that you guys are doing this.
The businesses that we do have contact with on our Main Street committee, we're super excited about it. So I think there's going to be a lot of interest from our local businesses.
Michelle had her hand up, and then we'll go to Mike after Michelle.
Yeah, Sarah, I was just wondering, I reached out and chatted with the chamber, and is there, I know that sometimes when you get started with the project, it ends up being more time than you anticipated. So have we allotted a fair amount or enough money for them to support this and to be going? Because I mean, it's a lot of work the first
Right.
year.
We have, well, we assume we've talked to the website and they let us know about approximately how many hours it takes per.
And you use the same hourly wage that other places have been using per the number of hours.
Right.
To calculate. Okay. All right. That's all.
Thanks, Michelle. Mike?
I was just wondering, is this the only company that does this kind of work, or how is this?
This company was recommended by WSU, a consultant who's been helping us. This company started in response to COVID early on to help neighborhoods and communities get their product online as soon as possible for response to COVID. So this is the company that was recommended, and we really have a good feeling about their websites, and we think it will work well here too.
Okay, is this considered a professional service?
Well, the chamber will be contracting with the company.
Oh, I see.
The city is supporting the chamber with the funding.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion? You have to unmute first.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't have bookmarks. Okay. I move to approve granting the Stilly Valley Chamber of Commerce a maximum amount of $22,000 to contracts with supportlocal.com to establish an online marketplace for Arlington businesses, and to also fund consulting to assist businesses with setup on the supportlocal.com website.
Second.
Question?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Sarah. I think this will be good for our businesses for the fourth.
Thank you.
Next up is the bid for the award for the Island Crossing span wire. Jim Kelly.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Am I coming clear tonight?
You are.
Yes.
Until you froze.
Yeah. Before you tonight is a request to enter into contract with Service Electric for the installation of a span wire signal system out at Island Crossing. This span wire signal system will be a temporary system replacing the trailer mounted signal system that has been up there for about 7 months right now. This span wire system will stay up until we complete the design of the roundabout and we obtain funding that we can get it constructed.
Thank you. Jan has a question, and then Dawn.
Okay, on the temporary stuff we have up there right now, are we renting that, or did we buy it and can we sell it back somewhere, or do we keep it, or what?
No, we're renting it right now from
Okay.
Traffic Systems.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Don.
Just a one quick question, Jim, is about a timeline. I don't see anything. When would this be up and running? And
We should have it up and running by January. The long lead item is going to be the signal case and the signal controller. It has to be purchased by the contractor, and then the contractor has to send it to WashDOT, who has to modify it, and then they send it back to us. So that would be the one long lead item.
perfect, thank you.
Questions, comments?
Okay, I move to award the SR 530 and Smoky Point Boulevard temporary signal project to Service Electric in the amount of $257,638.56 and authorize the mayor to sign the construction contract pending final review by the city attorney.
Second.
Question?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the ordinance establishing a franchise agreement with Puget Sound Energy. Also you, Jim.
Again, thank you very much, Madam Mayor and council members. Thank you again very much, Madam Mayor and council members. This item before you is sort of a cleanup item. The city of Arlington annexed a large part of its southern city in 1998, and in doing so, it also incorporated the utility services that were in there. Puget Sound Energy was providing natural gas service to this area, and it became part of Arlington. The creation of a franchise agreement sort of fell by the wayside and never got brought up. It was brought up to the city's attention in 2017, and Justin McConaughey and Steve Peifel worked diligently to get the agreement before you tonight. It is a very fair agreement. It will allow PSE to continue to provide natural gas service to the southern portion of our city, and I'm recommending that we adopt this franchise agreement with Puget Sound Energy.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions or comments? I see Jan.
You know, I read everything and it sort of confused me. So Puget Sound Energy, and you said the southern part. So do they not provide gas, natural gas for the whole rest of the city? Is there another agency out there that's doing that?
Yes, to where your house is, Jan, it's provided by Cascade Natural Gas. Puget Sound Energy has the portion of the city that is south of 172nd. North of 172nd is a franchise area to Cascade Natural Gas.
Okay, so then the majority, well, I shouldn't say the majority, but everything south of 172nd and the Cascade Industrial Center will be supplied by Puget Sound Energy then.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Okay, I move to approve the ordinance granting Puget Sound Energy a franchise for the transmission, distribution, and sale of natural gas within Arlington city limits and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement pending final approval by the city attorney.
Second.
Question?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor and council members.
Next up, the next 9 items are part of our 2020 comprehensive plan docket items, and we'll, Mark Hayes will take us through them each one at a time, and we'll react to each one individually. So I just want to let the council know that up front. Go ahead, Mark.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The first of 9 items tonight is the proposed changes to AMC Title 20, Chapter 2036, which are the zoning districts and zoning map. Planning number 672. The current residential zoning districts only provide for 3 zones. These changes would provide for additional zones within the city of Arlington, enabling us with more tools in order to be able to feather our residential capacity throughout the city. Other changes brought by these proposed changes are also some updated language of existing districts and the creation of a new commercial corridor district along Smoky Point Boulevard. Planning Commission held a workshop on April 7th, 2020, again on August 11th, 2020, and a public hearing on August 18th regarding this item. They voted unanimously in the affirmative to recommend this item for approval.
Thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I know we've been over these quite a few times already.
Okay, I move to approve the ordinance approving the proposed changes to AMC Title 20, Chapter 20.36 zoning districts and zoning map, and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance.
Second.
Question.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Want to just take us to the next item, Mark?
Thank you, Mayor. The next item on the agenda is the rezone of the airport business park, planning number 666. The city is rezoning the existing 39.61 acres of general commercial, existing 3.78 acres of highway commercial, and existing 142.78 acres of business park to the proposed 13.66 acres of general commercial, 2.29 acres of highway commercial, and proposed 170.22 acres of business park. The airport business park rezone is a city initiated project that is an amendment to the City of Arlington Comprehensive Plan. The rezone designations will provide for the flexibility, meeting the requirements to develop and market demand within this high potential area. Staff has recommended approval of this request. Planning Commission deliberated and voted unanimously in the affirmative to recommend this item for approval.
Is there any questions or comments on this item?
I move to approve the ordinance approving the airport business park rezone and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right, the item passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next item is the Lot 19 rezone, planning number 663. The Lot 19 LLC rezone is a privately initiated rezone requesting that approximately 14.36 acres be rezoned from residential moderate density to residential high density. This is located in the 19700 block of 74th Avenue Northeast along the Arlington Valley Road. The Lot 19 LLC rezone is a privately initiated rezone. Planning Commission held a workshop on April 7th, 2020, again on August 11th, 2020, and a public hearing on August 25th regarding the subject rezone. Planning Commission voted unanimously in the affirmative to recommend this item for approval.
Any questions or comments on this item? Jan?
Just a quick one, and I know you've answered this several times before, Mark, but, and I've been by that site multiple times, and they're going to have to take out a lot of trees. So they do have to leave buffers along Highway 9 and maybe between their business and the apartments and everything. So they'll have to put trees back in there.
So because there are critical areas, wetlands, and streams through this property, those buffers are established by the critical areas ordinance. And so the trees that you think will come out of there won't necessarily be removed because they're within buffers that are protected. So there's only a few small areas where they're outside of any of those buffers that are created by the critical areas. And so during that site development, we will look at each one of those. The areas, the critical areas need to be delineated on the site plan, and those buffers would stay intact.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask just one question on the Planning Commission's recommendation that the potential new homeowners in that area would be notified that it will be an industrial area adjacent to it?
Yes, thank you very much for bringing it up, Mayor. There was a comment from one of the business owners who is right across the street from this proposal. His concern was, which is legitimate, is that if you have residential development occurring within a general industrial area, those general industrial businesses are already existing. They already have operations in place that they've continued or have and have continued for years. Their fear, of course, is that if you introduce a residential element into that area, that there could be cause for complaints due to operations, noise levels, things of that matter. And so we did discuss this at the hearing, but this is part of a larger issue that we need to address throughout the whole Cascade Industrial Center, is that because there is interface between residential areas and the Cascade Industrial Center, we need to look at the operational noise level, hours of operation, all of that, and consider it as more holistically than just a single proposal. But yes, his concerns are going to be addressed. We'll make sure that that's been documented within the permit should this go forward.
Thank you. Mike also had his hand up.
Yeah, Mark, I remember talking about this some time ago, and at that time there is a developer that you have in mind that is planning to develop this piece, right? Am I correct?
It's the applicant that made the request for the
Yes,
rezone,
yes,
correct?
yes. And do you know anything about this development in terms of, is there going to be a variety of housing types or a variety of affordable and market rate units? Or do you know anything about what he actually plans on developing there as far as housing units?
The only thing they mentioned at the time, Mike, is that they were looking at trying to do some type of a townhome project on the property that made the most sense as opposed to any type of detached housing, simply because of the encumbrances from all the critical areas.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on this one?
Okay, I just wanted to say too that when I drove around and looked at all of these one by one, this one made a lot of sense. And the fact that SR9 sits up a lot higher than it was a good factor in it as well, that the high density will fit in there. So I would like to move to approve the ordinance approving the lot 19 rezone and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance.
Second.
Question.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Did you record that, Whitney? All right. Thank you. The motion passes. Next up.
Yes, thank you. Next item is the Corner 9 Properties LLC rezone, planning number 667. The applicant is requesting a land use designation change and rezone of 2.37 acres from neighborhood commercial to residential high density. The application is requesting, or the applicant is requesting this rezone due to the fact that the conditions on site had drastically changed since the annexation of the property in 2013. At the time of annexation, the owners were interested in continuing the commercial uses that were in operation at the time, and to preserve the opportunity for future commercial use related to the operation of the dairy farm while they controlled the property. Since the annexation, the commercial uses on the site have been abandoned and the property is no longer viable for neighborhood commercial due to close proximity to the core commercial areas of the city. With the continuing need for additional housing options in the city, this amendment would allow for residential development that would be appropriate for the site and would allow the property to better transition into the surrounding uses. This is a part of the Gilman Walk at Country Charm proposal, which is a townhome project. This is the only portion of this property that is not going to be is zoned incorrectly for the townhome project to occur. And so we've looked at this. It makes perfect sense for this to be zoned as an RHD zoning so that this townhome project can move forward. The Planning Commission held a workshop on April 7th, 2020, again on August 11th, 2020, and a public hearing on August 25th, 2020, regarding the above subject property. Planning Commission deliberated, voted unanimously in the affirmative to recommend this item for approval. There were no public comments at the public hearing.
Mark, is there any questions for Mark on this one?
I move to approve the ordinance approving the Corner 9 Properties LLC rezone and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance.
Second.
Question?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is the 31st Avenue rezone. This is a privately initiated rezone request consisting of 4 property owners and 5 parcels of land. The applicants are requesting a land use designation change and rezone of approximately 4.4 acres from residential moderate density to high density residential. The application consists of the 5 separate parcels. Planning Commission held a workshop on April 7th, again on August 11th, and a public hearing on September 1st, 2020 regarding the subject rezone. Planning Commission deliberated, voted unanimously in the affirmative to recommend this item for approval.
Do you have any questions or comments on this one? Mike?
Yes, I have the same question on this one as the other one that I asked about. And that is, there is a developer who has in mind to put something there, correct?
No, not to my knowledge.
So there's no, so do we?
There's
so
been
we-
been no project related to this.
No project rated for this. So we
Correct.
don't know at this point whether what's going in there, whether it's a variety of housing types or affordable housing types or market rate plus affordable combination or anything like that. We have no knowledge of that.
We do not.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments, Deborah?
Well, I'm puzzled by Mike's question, so help me understand, because those type of items, as far as the type of housing going in, that's like putting the cart before the horse, right? Because this is just the zoning of the property, and then those applications dealing with what type of housing it's going to be will come to the Planning Commission at a different time. Am I correct, Mark?
That is correct, Deborah.
Okay, so, and it will be at that stage then that the Planning Commission will ask all the questions. We would be able to ask questions and whatever. Okay,
Correct.
and that would that go to a public hearing also, or would it just go through Planning Commission and Council?
No, it would go through just Planning Commission and Council.
Okay.
So the project, but I would definitely keep the council informed as to what was being proposed here, just like any other project.
Okay, I got confused for a moment, so thank you.
Michelle, did you have your hand up?
I do. So I guess I was a little curious, like Mike was. What is the maximum stories that could be put there? I know it's potentially apartment buildings, right? Is it 4 or 3?
It is 4 stories. They would have to meet certain conditions, just like any other project, in order to get the 4th story. But yes, they could do a 4-story building.
And that's max.
Correct.
And that buffers the highway, right? I-5?
It does.
Okay. Thank you.
Questions?
Okay, I move to approve the ordinance approving the 31st Avenue rezone and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance.
Second,
Question?
Those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
You opposed?
No.
Thank you. Item passes 6-1.
Thank you, Mayor. The next item is the York property rezone, planning number 665. This is a city-initiated project requesting that a 0.56 acre lot in the Smoky Point neighborhood be changed from public, semi-public zoning to residential high-density zoning. Little background on this is that you may remember at the December 18th, 2017 council meeting, council voted to surplus the parcel, subject parcel, known as the York House, and directed staff to apply the proceeds to the Parks Capital Fund. The city's Parks and Recreation Commission recommended approval of this action in October and December of 2018. Multiple offers for the property were tendered. However, none of the offers culminated in a successful sale of the property. It was a consistent opinion of the makers of these offers and other interested parties that the use of the property without high capacity zoning was not financially feasible. Planning Commission held a workshop on April 7th, again on August 11th, and a public hearing on September 1st of 2020 regarding the subject rezone. Planning Commission deliberated and voted unanimously in the affirmative to recommend this item for approval.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions? Okay, Mike and then Michelle. Jen, did you have your hand up? I couldn't see.
No, I started to. I'll wait till they're done, then I wanted to.
Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Okay, this is the York property, right? And
Correct.
the city-owned property.
Correct.
And there was, if I remember correctly in past discussions, there was, you were hunting around for somebody who could build there. And you did find somebody who could build there. Am I correct then on that?
There was an offer made on the property,
There was
correct?
an offer. And do we have any knowledge as to what he plans to put in there, or this developer plans to put in there? Again, whether it's all market rate, whether it's market plus affordable, just affordable, or a variety of sizes or a variety of housing types, or exactly do we know what's going to go in there?
We do not, because it's currently not on the market, because it did not get a rezone at the last request. So until a rezone is made or we know what the disposition, the zoning of the property is, it can't go forward for marketability.
Thank you.
Michelle, did you have your hand up?
I do. So I've asked this question before, and I guess I'm just going to ask it again before we go to a vote. I look at it, and I've been there, and I went there, just a few days ago. I talked to families that were using the park, and I just wonder why we don't expand that and make it a larger park, especially with all the building that we're doing around there. I mean, or potentially doing with possibly 4-story apartments along the highway and all the other apartments that have gone up. It just seems like it would be kind of a nice give back to that area to create a larger park so that kids could go there and play, because right now there isn't anything. And it's not just the community that uses that. I ran into a few people that don't live in that neighborhood, and they come there with their children to play, and they love it there. And I think it's more and more apartments go up, it's potentially more and more people would use it, and we could use a larger park. So that's my question. I mean, I would love to see us use that land to enlarge the park for the community that we're putting so many apartments on.
Carolyn, you had your hand up. Did you want to address Michelle, or did you want Mark to address Michelle?
Well, I'll just say quickly that part of the goal
originally when we annexed Smoky Point was to have another park there, or a kind of a center for public gatherings and a park. And so the goal was to sell this property, and the park board and, was hoping that the funds that were generated from the sale of this property would allow us to have a second park in Smoky Point to also, accommodate all the growth there, to have not just one neighborhood park that's a little bit bigger, but actually another park that would service the area better.
Do we have one that we're looking at doing in the near future? And I just asked that because the buildings that are going up now are already there, or they're going to be done shortly. So do we have another park designated in the near future to use as a community park?
There isn't one, a specific piece of property that's already purchased or dedicated, but there are options out there. And we've tried over the years to get property. There was the one there on Smoky Point Drive there behind where the bus stop is. We worked on that and it just never quite came through. But there is other property there that is for sale that could be purchased with the proceeds from this park that would give another park, not just one. It would be, we'd have two parks, and it would service a broader scope of the population there at Smoky Point.
And I wasn't here last year for any of this, so but I sat there and I just couldn't envision like a 3-story apartment complex, which I think is the max it could be, is 3 stories on that parcel right next to the park. So am I right, or am I wrong on that, Mark? Maybe is that 3-story potentially that could go up there?
That's what we looked at
To make it
last year,
worthwhile.
was a 3-story apartment.
Okay.
Correct.
So then I look at that and I sit there and, I've gone there several times and I just have a hard time with it. That's all. It's just me. I may be the only person that thinks that, but I just wanted to talk about it a little bit more. And I just think it's important to expand that park just because of how populated that area is getting. So
it is, but the growth that's happening in that immediate area is higher density. Mm-hmm. And so, and when we had our public hearings, I don't believe anyone who was an actual resident of that neighborhood came and spoke. There was one person that came who didn't live in that. I mean, they just came to speak as a general comment. So the people that live there don't seem to be concerned about it. At least they haven't expressed their opinion on that publicly. So I don't know. I just think 2 parks would be, I've hoped for another park at Smoky Point for 20 years. And so.
Well, that's a long time to wait, right? If we've got people all over the place there. So.
Seems like it would be I would rather see 2 parks than 1, but
yeah,
whatever the majority rules,
Yeah.
Brett?
So Michelle, just to address what you're saying a little bit about the 3 stories. And so when I look at the map, I'm not going to stand on the ground and look because our vision is straight. We can't see what's happening on the other side of some houses. And so that's primarily high density all around there. So whether it's 2 or 3 stories that would potentially be built in that property, I look at it as that feathering effect that we talked about when we did the game of homes a year or 2 ago. Also, when I think about that park expanding, well, first of all, I want to honor the Parks Commission that looked at this, and they're the ones, again, we have commissions for a reason to kind of have the goals of a whole community and a whole city when it comes to parks and recreation. And I did a visitation with them several years ago to all the parks, and they spoke to me, the commission at that time, about wanting this property to be sold and wanted to have a different park in a different location that maybe would be more accessible and not bring so many people from outside the neighborhood to that little neighborhood park, but more of a central park. that would be more accessible to other neighborhoods in the Smoky Point area. So I feel like I want to take a look at that from a high level view. And I know I've had several conversations with Mark and with Paul and with the mayor about some potential properties to move forward in the near future, not 20 years, but maybe a couple years, 5 years, for some property that would be more central. So just my input on that too.
Yeah, and I mean, and thank you. But I mean, I think that just because people didn't come to the public meeting too, we can't just assume that they are okay with it. Sometimes people just don't know the process and they're afraid to talk. We heard some people talk tonight and they said they were afraid to talk. And people may just not have decided to voice their opinion. But I'm looking and I look at the park potentially enlarging as a great thing for that community of houses, and then also the high density, just because there's going to be so many people. And I mean, a lot of people use the existing park. So imagine how much more space there'd be for people to play basketball if there's another basketball court. So I'm done now until it comes to vote.
For anybody else, I see Jessica has her hand up.
Yeah, so Mark, you made a comment earlier for the residential high density that was up next to I-5 that it could be up to 4 stories. So this one can't be up to 4 stories?
There were certain conditions they have to meet. There's criteria in order to gain that 4th story. It makes sense to go to an additional story along the I-5 corridor for the simple fact that you create that buffering effect. It doesn't make sense to have a 4-story in this location, particularly with what is existing in that neighborhood now. That would be contrary to what we're trying to achieve with the feathering of the massing and intensity. So we would look at that and have a talk. If an application came in for 4 stories, we would definitely talk to try and dissuade anyone who wanted to do beyond a 3-story structure at that location.
And I do understand that. I just know that if we rezone it, the talk doesn't necessarily mean anything because the developer can develop up to the maximum of what we rezone to. So
well, by rights, it is 3 stories.
What's that?
By rights, it is 3 stories.
What do you mean?
So by right, they could do 3 stories. They would have to go beyond what is allowable in order to get the 4th story.
What do you mean they'd have to go beyond what's allowable? Like they'd have to ask for another exception?
Yeah, it's not given to them by right. They have to meet certain criteria in order to gain an additional story for a building.
But the certain criteria is things like enough parking per unit and those types of things, correct?
All of that, yeah. This lot is way too small to try and get a 4-story on, simply because your parking would take away from the footprint of the building. So,
and that was kind of my thought too. When you drive through that neighborhood, it is all single family homes. All the lots are, and then the park right there. And it would be so out of place, in my opinion, to have an apartment complex right there. I feel like this is the epitome of spot zoning. Thank you.
So Jan had her hand up.
Okay, if I remember correct, Mark, when it came to us at first and the 3 stories, they were only looking at 18 apartments because of the size, it's half an acre and it would just be 18. And there are definitely homes in there that are 2-story high. And
correct.
So having an apartment complex of 18 that's 3 isn't nearly as bad as if it was 100 in 4-story high apartments. And I would want a second park at Smoky Point, but I would like to see that at a different location. I'd like to see it larger and to where we could put some things in for kids or whatever. And we've got parks all over the city. And I do believe we need another one up there. Selling this property would at least give us money. I know that taking out the house and the garage and everything, if I remember correctly, Paul said it was like 30 grand, and then running water and sewer in there is an expense too, and why they wanted to go to higher density. And I just think that it would be a good addition. And yes, I have spoke to people in that area. Nobody in that area, not one single neighbor, said they did not want that to happen. Anyway.
Thank you, Jan.
My
Are there any
opinion.
other questions or comments for Mark?
My only other comment about the second park in Smoky Point is it's a little disheartening if we've been wanting one for 20 years. The money we get from this one lot would be enough for maybe purchasing one lot somewhere else in Smoky Point, which is a tiny, tiny park, but that's just saying that the land price will be the same. And so I think the ideal or even the realistic view of us getting another park based on just this lot is not realistic.
Marilyn and then Deborah.
Well, it may not seem realistic, but there are other partnerships that can be had, and it's seed money for something. And if we haven't done anything, and so here's an opportunity for property that's just sitting there, and it will cost a lot of money just to keep it, where the park is a neighborhood park. And so it's a small park, and the neighborhood is enjoying it, and that's why it was put in there in the first place. So this piece of property, I think it's a shame that we aren't selling it and using the revenue from that to partner with another entity to build a park, whether it be private or business or some development that's going in, we could partner with. We're just sitting on it. It seems a waste.
Deborah?
Well, and also there's park mitigation monies that are in our accounts too, that have to go towards parks. So it's not just this piece of property's money, but
Right.
there's other monies also. So there's potential, and we just need to have the wherewithal to move forward on it and not keep sitting on this. And we don't have the money to tear down this house. Otherwise, we would have done it 20 years ago. So it's time to move forward, in my opinion.
Yeah, again?
It's sorry. It's not a neighborhood park. It's more of a community park because people outside the neighborhood are definitely using this park. So you already have people coming into this park and using it. So it's not really, I know it's what we like to call it, is a neighborhood, that only the people in the neighborhood use it, but it's not only the people in the neighborhood that are using it. It's people that are coming from other places.
That's because there is no other park there.
Well,
And-
imagine if we made it bigger, how much nicer it would
Don
be.
had his hand up. Let's let him speak too.
I guess
Go ahead, Don.
Just one quick question. We go back looking at this property, the city got it as a park, part of it was a house. How did the city obtain the property? Was it
How did what?
donated to the city as a park to be used as a park? That's where I'm coming from. What was the original purpose given how the land was acquired?
Well, Rudy York, well, you could probably.
Paul can give us the history on that.
We purchased the property from the York family with the intention to build a park there. The house in that area was identified as phase 2. There was never any plan for it. What you see there that's the park now was phase 1. The city built it with some community development block grant funding, matched with some city park mitigation funds about 18 years ago, give or take.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was doing. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't donated to the city to be used as a park.
No.
I don't think those neighborhoods any longer qualify for the community block grant funding. So
Hollywood.
Any other questions or comments for Mark? Discussion? Okay. Thank you, everybody.
I move to deny the ordinance approving the York rezone.
Second.
Question?
All those in favor of denying the York Park rezone?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I have you raise your hands so that Wendy can properly get this? All those in favor
Oh,
of denying the request?
so we're denying the request.
She made her own motion. Okay, yeah, she didn't read the motion. She made her own motion. Okay, did you get the votes, Wendy? Okay. All those against denying the rezone? Okay.
So everyone's name who voted against it is now going to be on record? Is that correct? Okay, so.
City clerk is recording.
Okay, so Marilyn, when you go back to the park, you can let them know that we tried really hard to get a second park at Smoky Point, but that isn't going to happen with current council.
Trust me, I will make sure that you will.
Let's move on to the next item, Mark.
So the next item is not a docket item, but it did come up to our attention during our docketing process. And so as part of the airport rezone, business park rezone, there was a proposal for a DSHS office as part of the rezone. During our review of the permissible use table, we found that the permissible use table actually did not allow for the use as described in our zoning, and so we took this as a Scrivener's error somewhere along the line. It was inadvertently left out or had got removed during one of the updates and modifications to the permissible use table. So we're just moving forward with a land use code amendment here during this process just for efficiencies. And so the change is to add that permissible use back into the permissible use table. And so the Planning Commission held a workshop on April 7th, August 11th, and a hearing, which it didn't require, on August 18th, 2020 regarding the item. Planning Commission deliberated, voted unanimously in the affirmative to recommend this item for approval.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions on this?
I move to approve the ordinance approving the land use code amendment to AMC chapter 20.40-1 permissible use table and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance.
Second.
Question?
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next item is the National Foods Property Emergency Rezone Request. This is also a non-docket item, although it did come in, timing was perfect for it to come in and be seen and heard through in concert with the rest of our docket items. So the applicant, Panatone Development, is submitting a rezone for a non-project action that is located between the 4400 and 5100 blocks of 172nd Street Northeast, the National Foods property. The proposal seeks to make amendments to the City of Arlington Comprehensive Plan, future land use map, and zoning map to rezone approximately 75.12 acres of currently zoned highway commercial with a mixed use overlay and redesignate this to light industrial. This non-project action allows for future development of the property, which proposes to include a $230 million capital improvement investment, as well as creating the opportunity for 1,600 new employment opportunities. The rezone request is submitted under RCW 36.70A.132, an emergency rezone due to the unforeseen shutdown of the economy caused by the coronavirus and due to an immediate non-speculative opportunity within the Cascade Industrial Center.
you, Mark. Are there any questions or comments for Mark on this one?
I move to approve the ordinance approving the emergency rezone for National Foods property and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance.
Second,
Question.
Those in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Now the final docket item, Mark.
Final item. So this is like the Panattoni National Foods rezone. This is the North Point development. It is also coming in as an emergency rezone request, planning number 729. It is also being heard in concert with our docket items, even though it was not a part of the docket itself. So the applicant, North Point Development, LLC, is submitting a rezone for a non-project action that is located at the 6600 block of 172nd Street Northeast. The proposal seeks to make amendments to the City of Arlington Comprehensive Plan future land use map and zoning map to rezone approximately 39.2 acres of an 87.7 acre parcel, currently split zoned general commercial with the mixed use overlay and light industrial. Redesignation of the entire parcel, or redesignating the entire parcel to light industrial. This non-project action allows for future development and employment opportunities within the Cascade Industrial Center, which also requires the relocation and restoration of Edgecombe Creek. The plan is submitted under RCW 36.70A.132, an emergency rezone due to the unforeseen shutdown of the economy caused by the coronavirus, and to allow for the developer to work with multiple jurisdictions in order to coordinate the relocation and rehabilitation of Edgecombe Creek within the Cascade Industrial Center.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any comments or questions on this one?
Okay, I move to approve the ordinance approving the emergency rezone for the North Point Development property rezone and authorize the mayor to sign the ordinance.
Second.
Question,
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that item passes unanimously. Thank you, Mark, for taking us through all 9 of those.
Great, thank you very much.
Mayor, may I just address something about one of these items?
Certainly.
I would just like to encourage the council people who voted against York Park being rezoned to please take it as a challenge to make a change and work with the city and come up with some other options, because several of us have been doing that for many years. And so either it's just going to sit there as is with an abandoned building, or somebody's going to take it as a challenge to make it a better place for Smoky Point. So I just encourage the 4 of you who voted that way to please step forward.
Thank you, Deborah. Thank you.
I have a plan for that property, and it concerns housing.
Wouldn't be low income housing, would it?
Taxpayers aren't paying for housing.
No, they're
If you
not.
wanted to make an offer on the property, I'm sure we would consider it. So let's move on to our next item, which is the authorization to commence litigation. Mr. Pifel.
Yes, Madam Mayor, members of the council, this request is before you tonight to allow me to file a lawsuit in order to clean up a property located at 3505 183rd Place Northeast. This is a property that has been the subject of a substantial amount of police activity in 2020 and going back to prior years. The council recently revised the code enforcement ordinance for the specific purpose of allowing us to abate nuisances of this particular type. And as presented to you at last week's executive session, we think that it's necessary for us to commence a lawsuit in order to get action to occur on this property faster. There may be some limitations that exist currently with respect to the owner being able to take enforcement action because of the moratorium on evictions. But And there may be issues that exist with the current occupant of the property, who seems to be either encouraging or at least turning a blind eye to the criminal activity that's occurring on site. And for that reason, I'm asking for the council's authority to commence a lawsuit in order to ask the court to abate the nuisance. I am happy to answer any questions council has.
Have any questions for Mr. Bifo?
Okay. I move to authorize the city attorney to commence a code enforcement lawsuit against the owners and occupants of the property at 3505 183rd Place Northeast.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This is unanimously. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
So that includes our new business items, and next up we have a discussion item. But before we do that, I want to take the liberty to make a little bit of a statement. Before we get started tonight on the flag discussion, I want to address a misunderstanding. I want the citizens to know I read every one of your emails and I take your feedback seriously. I received quite a bit of citizen feedback this year in May when we flew the thin blue line flags. When I spoke to the chief about this, he reminded me that the flag are to symbolize the risk and loss of life of police officers putting their lives on the line for our citizens, and to specifically, and not specifically to show appreciation for the police department itself. So then I spoke with other city leaders in the city, and it was decided that we would see if we could just fly the American flag. My announcement last week wasn't meant to cause concern, but to inform people that their voices had been heard and that we decided we could change how we do things. But please do not think in any way whatsoever that I do not support the police department, or that the city council or the city staff do not support the police department. As many of you know, over the past 10 years, we have worked diligently to add police staffing, equipment, cars, and training to our department in order to grow and support the department to be able to effectively and safely police the city of Arlington. I personally fully back the Arlington Police Department. However, since last week, there has been additional and new feedback from the community, and we realize that this topic needs further discussion. At this point, it's no longer a decision about flying the thin blue line flags, but what should our city policy be that would be appropriate? So I'm going to turn this conversation over to Paul Ellis, our city administrator, to facilitate with the council, to open up discussion with you, so you can ask questions and help direct city staff in creating a draft policy.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I open it up to council for discussion, Chief Insurer is on our Zoom call with us and wanted to just make some comments from the police department.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council. It's my honor to come before you this evening to make a public statement acknowledging the number of calls, emails, and the social media posts that you, the city, and I personally received this last week, debating the efficacy of flying the thin blue line flags on Olympic Avenue during Police Week in May. First and foremost, I'd like to express my deepest sympathy and apologies for some of the vitriol you received over this last week. As the son of a Marine Corps drill instructor, Navy veteran myself, and someone who's worked graveyard police patrol, I was actually shocked and disheartened by some of the language and the insults that you've endured this last week. Although much of the correspondence was thoughtful and respectful, I'm afraid that COVID may have left some with too much time on their hands, and the perceived anonymity that comes with posting messages or leaving voicemails has seemed to have stripped away any filter, civility, or basic decency. I'm sorry that any of you felt unsafe in our community during this period, and I hope we can discuss any ongoing concerns that you still may have. I do acknowledge that the mayor and the APOA have released statements on the subject, and I do agree with those statements, but I would like to publicly address some of the statements I believe to be inaccurate that I've seen on social media myself. Number one, as previously noted by the mayor, the thin blue line flags acknowledging the sacrifices of the fallen law enforcement officers killed in line of duty on National Law Enforcement Memorial Day and the week thereof were donated to the city by a local business family to show their support. These flags have been flown on Olympic during the last 2 years. And to my knowledge, there are not currently any thin blue line flags on public display on any city property. Therefore, the city is not removing any of these flags. Secondly, the city has not removed any thin blue line displays within the police department. Additionally, the police department has not changed any policies regarding thin blue line displays. I can confirm for you that the Arlington Police Department policy has never allowed for any alterations to city-owned equipment or uniforms. And for this reason, you will not see any pieces of personal flair on vehicles or uniforms, be it a thin blue line or a Biden 2020 bumper sticker. That said, we have not asked officers to remove thin blue line rings, bracelets, mourning band shrouds that they wear on their badges during the time to honor memorial officers fallen, nor have we asked anybody to cover any of their tattoos depicting the same. Third, and maybe most personally concerning to me, is any insinuation that the City of Arlington Council doesn't support the police department. For this, the record speaks for itself, but I'd like to share a few highlights from the last 6 years that I've been the Chief Law Enforcement Officer. During this time, the police department has seen an increase to its budget for the last 2 budget cycles. Additionally, at a time when we have heard calls to defund police, this last June, our mayor issued a statement calling to defend the police. The council followed suit in July, issuing a resolution in support of the police department. In this last budget cycle, the council increased department minimum staffing and added patrol officers. In addition, the council has nearly replaced the entire police vehicle fleet and approved the purchase of a virtual de-escalation training simulator that's valued at nearly $100,000 to be placed in a new training facility that will be built within the replacement of our current impound building. And as nearly every department within the city has been tasked with cutting their budget under this recent pandemic and instituting hiring freezes, the Arlington Police Department has still been allowed to recruit and hire for open officer positions. In essence, the council is and has been very supportive of the police department, and it's my assertion that it should not be judged otherwise in this particular debate. Speaking to the symbolism of the thin blue line, the phrase "the thin blue line" is known around the world as referring to the traditional blue-colored uniform police officers wear that separates order from chaos. The blue line itself has been around for several decades and is most frequently used in law enforcement to honor fallen officers in memoriam. It symbolizes everything that's good about policing and what policing should be. Although I absolutely reject any correlation between the symbol of the thin blue line and the group that promotes racism, hate, or bigotry, it's still important that we in law enforcement respect others may not have, or respect that others may have a different perspective unique to their own experiences. It's the police department's mission statement that the department, in partnership with the community, provides exceptional law enforcement services to improve the quality of life in Arlington. And to meet this mission, it is important that we avoid creating barriers for people within our community. And now, although most of the visits and messages, calls and emails have been overwhelmingly supportive, the time to manage such has been very difficult this last week and this last couple of years during Police Week. And I think that it's causing a distraction to what the symbol actually means. It's taking a lot of staff time for myself. I can speak for some others in the city. And I think that time is better spent on more important issues in the community. Many have made inquiries to me about what they can do to show their support for officers, and there were several suggestions that I heard earlier, and I think those were some good suggestions. But my first advice to anybody that asks is always, I say, just tell somebody thank you if the opportunity presents itself. We've had meals catered to the police department. We receive thank you cards on a regular basis. We've seen blue porch lights throughout Glen Eagle as we drive around at night, and we see blue ribbons showing support. I know some households fly blue line symbols or blue line flags. some have been asked if they could fly the blue line flags instead of the city. And I personally advocate for such. I would suggest the city remove itself from this debate, leave it up to the community as a group and as businesses and as individuals to best express their support for their police department in their own way, if they're inclined to do so. I will not discount that these flags do hold great significance to most of the officers within the department, myself included. And as you've seen during this debate, during this last week, it's almost a sacred matter to these officers. And as such, I would suggest that the thin blue line flags that were donated to the city be transferred to the Arlington Police Officer Association, that that they may distribute those flags to their members as they deem appropriate, and then they can share them with interested supporters as they wish. I'd like to close and say the support demonstrated by our community towards our officers means the world to them. It means the world to me, especially during these challenging times where police have been made to feel subhuman in some cases. And I hope to remain and continue to work to be worthy of that support that we received. And again, it's my pleasure to be here tonight and hopefully answer any questions or as they may come up. So thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate your words. I'm going to open this up for council discussion. The reason why we're doing it a little bit different tonight is I anticipate that council is going to have some questions or some further direction for staff. And so I would like to try to capture that tonight so that Mr. Pifel and I can work on whatever the council's wishes are and bring back additional information or what you would like to see in the future on this. Jan.
I've thought about this constantly since I sent the email asking for it to be put on the agenda. And first of all, I thank you, Chief Ventura. That was excellent. You covered everything. And the people who spoke before the meeting started, several of the things they said was spot on. And right now we're in a different time. If this was 3 or 4 years ago, it would be different. And right now we're in a real difficult time and we don't even know what tomorrow is going to bring. And one of the things that crossed my mind, and I believe one of the people mentioned it in public comment, was because the flag means so many different things to people. I was wondering if for not only Police Week in May, but we have Fire Week in October, if I'm correct. And instead of the flags, if we did banners, and I know that we've hung a banner down Olympic from one side of the street to the other, but if we could come up with something that showed the support and that this was the National Week, and if we had 4 or 5 banners, not just one. And because I want to recognize our first responders, I think is extremely important. They put their life on the line every day. And we need, it's 2 weeks out of the year for them. I know that the last gentleman who spoke on public comment brought up my one concern about flying the flags, was if we were to do an ordinance, and that was my first thought a week or so ago, is that if we did something that just specifically put out the fire and the police flags, that we would definitely have other organizations coming in and suing and saying that they want to fly their flags on certain days or it's discrimination. And people, I've been there before. I've been at high schools where we had to quit allowing kids to meet in a religious club because the Aryan Nation wanted the same right. And so we had to eliminate anybody meeting during our lunch. And so that was a concern of mine. If we were to do any kind of ordinance that this specifically listed out which flags could fly and which flags can't fly. And so, but I still think we need to do something. And that's why I would really, and in the discussion, say, okay, let's buy some banners. I think there'd be enough people in town who would be willing to donate the money to buy the banners so that we could hang them out for those 2 weeks of the year. And I love Jonathan's thought about just giving the flags to the police officers and they can fly it at their home, or golly, they can come and put one up at mine. But I think that we're just in a different time, people. And I appreciate everybody who emailed, and I'm sorry if people were hurt because we didn't respond normally. And Paul and Barb can tell you this, normally when someone emails the whole council plus the mayor and the administrator, we know that one of them is going to respond for all of us. And I never even counted how many came in. And the same way with Facebook too. So I still think we need to come up with something that as a city we do. Yes, people can send out postcards. They can say thank you to police officers when they run across. But I believe the city needs to do something that's visual. And I think banners on those 2 weeks out of the year, both for fire and police, would be a logical answer. But I want more than one banner. Anyway, that's where I'm coming from.
Any other thoughts? Jessica first, then Mike.
So I have a different thought than rather eliminating. So it's kind of the opposite, more of allowance and inclusion. For me, I feel like if we could write a policy on allowing any positive, respectful flag that shows appreciation to any department or group, that it should be allowed. In fact, in May, when we were emailed by the citizen who had brought up the concern before about the impression she got from the Thin Blue Line, I reached out to her and we talked about other areas that we could represent. And she brought up, could we represent or do something in appreciation of Black History Month if she got a business to donate the flags? And in my opinion, I think we should. I think we should celebrate everything that's positive and great in this city. And I mean, right now we fly art that has cows and birds and all sorts of things. So I think it would be great if we could show respect towards other groups and other departments in the city and keep the positivity with some policy that surrounds making sure that it stays positive.
Mike, I think you had your hand up next.
Yeah, I just wanted to be very brief. I think Chief Ventura's statement was extremely perceptive, and I think we should take his advice and do exactly what he said and leave it at that.
Michelle?
I appreciate you talking, Chief Ventura, and defining exactly on record what the Thin Blue Line flag symbolizes. And like I said last week, it simply symbolizes those that have lost their life in the line of duty. And I believe we were only talking about flying this flag during Police Memorial Week, if I remember right, which is a day or a week in May. And then I think there was also some talk about the red line flag. I know that these are such strong symbols that it really does mean a lot to our public servants out there. I look at public servants, those that have and are willing to sacrifice everything to defend and protect. So for me, that's a difference when we're honoring individuals that serve at that level. So I think the flag does represent a strong symbol to our public servants, the police officers. It will always mean something to them. And if we're just talking about however many days in May to fly that, honoring those that have lost their lives. And if we're able to somehow communicate and have people understand that is the only intention and has been the only intention of that flag. That's my feedback.
Okay, any other thoughts? Deborah,
Yes.
and then Mike, Scuzzy, Dawn.
Pardon?
Sorry, you first and then Dawn.
All right. I understand the desire to support our police. As I stated last week, I've done that with my votes. I think it's very important to consider supporting our citizens that are people of color as much as we support the police. It is those people that have voted each of us in, and we need to consider that. Now, it might be nice to say that flag only means a certain thing, but our social situation in our country has changed that. And you would be sticking your head in the sand to say otherwise. I do not understand why the American flag is not good enough. It was draped on my father's casket. He is a Marine who served in the Korean War. I love seeing the American flags down Olympic Avenue. I love seeing them every holiday on the Baptist church up the street here. The American flag represents all honor to all of us, to our first responders, to all of our military, and it is our national flag. So I'm sorry, I see the discrepancy with this thin blue line flag. You may not want to see it, but it is there. It has been taken over by the white supremacists. Now, did you all read how many people are afraid up at the schools because of Confederate flags? This is an issue in our community. And I would like to see us think about the people of color in our community. And Chief Ventura, I hope that you will follow up with the person who called in that says there's a hit list out there. And let's make sure that's not going to happen. This is a dangerous issue and it concerns me deeply.
Thank you. Dawn?
Yeah, just a couple things. Everybody's like Deborah says, this thing, the flag has been, I will call it hijacked and turned its purpose around. But I mean, they've also done the same thing with the US flag. They've taken that and hijacked it at different occasions. So with that said, Madam Mayor, my fellow members of council, as proclamations have been made by both our governor and the President of the United States to honor our law enforcement officials through the flying of the thin blue line flag annually on May 15th, as well as the week that date precedes in, I would like to see Arlington fly the thin blue flag on the streets of Arlington, as well as the following week, the thin red flag for our firefighters, as well as on May 18th, 2017, Congress designated October 28th as the National First Responders Day. This resolution honors all the police officers, firefighters, EMTs, and all those first on the scene in stressful situations. Therefore, I move that we also fly these flags annually on that date.
I'll second that. Dawn?
Do you want to, I'm not proceeding over the meeting. Do you want to take a vote on it?
Oh, sorry. That surprised me. I didn't know you were throwing out a motion there. So did everybody understand that Don was putting a resolution out as a motion?
Since this is a discussion item, is that even something we can do? I mean, it's not on the agenda. I mean, if we're going to make a motion, shouldn't it be on the agenda? Because this is under discussion. And I thought that's all we were going to do. I mean, I'd like to hear from all of the council people tonight, and then maybe have Paul and you and Steve meet to look where we go from here. Because I just don't feel like a discussion item that suddenly turns into a motion is something we could even do. Is Steve still on?
Yes, I'm still here, Councilmember Schweddy. The council has the right to take action on any item that's on the agenda, and presumably you also have the right to amend the agenda to change a discussion item to an action item. But I think you probably would, just from a procedural standpoint, probably would need to have a motion that would occur first. So the first motion would be, do we change the agenda to allow action on this item? Second motion would be, if that passes, then to act on whatever the motion is that's being made, the motion that Council Member Vanny brought up. So I think your first action would be to decide whether you wish to amend the agenda, because so far the council approved the agenda as presented without changing it.
I don't know about the rest of you guys.
Marilyn had her hand up too. I just
Okay.
want to point out when Paul was trying to get everybody some comments.
I didn't realize that Don was going to make the motion at that particular time. I did want to comment briefly that I don't know if this is the appropriate time for me to have a turn to comment, or does that work, or do we need to straighten this out first about the motion?
We should probably straighten it out first.
Steve.
You know, technically, I think under the Roberts rules, once a motion's been made, you need to act on the motion unless there's consent from the maker of the motion to. Anyway, I think you guys can make a decision about how you wish to address that. There is a motion that's on the table, but I think we have this procedural issue about amending the agenda. I think you probably should take care of that first, and then after that, you can proceed with however you wish with regard to making statements for or against.
Okay.
Anna, procedural.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm not comfortable. I would like to see Don's motion in writing. I mean, every one that we've ever passed has been in written form so that you can see exactly what you're voting on. And however you vote, I don't know. I think the people who've spoken tonight, the council people, everybody had good things, and what Chief Ventura said was great. But I don't want us walking away, the seven of us, with some of us feeling like we don't appreciate the police or the fire because we are not, or we're saying that we need to look at it longer, maybe, whether what we're going to do. I just
Let me see if I can
I'm
start here.
not comfortable.
Let me just see if I can start here. Let me check in with Councilmember Vanny. If he's wishes to change or amend his motion or pull it back and give the council a chance to see it in writing, or does he want to put forward a motion to amend the agenda that was presented?
Yeah, I'd like to put forward a motion to add it to the agenda.
So I think what Mr. Piper was saying, if I understood, Steve, check me on this, is that at the very beginning of the meeting, the council approved the agenda as presented. And this was presented as a discussion item, not an item to act upon this evening. So that's the first thing. Somebody would have to make a motion to change the agenda.
That is correct. That's my assessment.
I would like to make the motion then to change the agenda.
And
Could you make a
Councilmember,
full motion so that it's in the record what you're amending?
Councilmember Vanek, is it correct that you wish to amend the motion so that this discussion item can become an action item?
On the agenda, tonight's agenda. Yes.
I think that is a clearer motion.
Thank you for the help, Steve.
Thank you.
Is there a second on that? Okay, there appears.
I mean, I would second that if, I would second that.
So there's a motion and a second. And if there's no discussion, does anybody want to call for the question so we can vote on that? I think I'll just go ahead and take a vote. There appears to be no discussion. So all those in favor of amending the agenda this evening to move our discussion item into an action item? All those in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
All those that are opposed, please raise your hand. Be easier for us to. Okay, the motion fails 5-2. So this will remain a discussion item. And so let me just frame this how I thought this would go this evening. Really wanted the city administrator, Paul, and Mr. Pipel to hear your comments so that they could come back at our workshop next week with something framed that all the council can look at, but was based on your feedback tonight. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yes.
So is there any more feedback you'd like to give to Deborah? I'm going to give it back to you, Paul.
Deborah and then Marilyn.
Steve, thank you for sending the email about with the MSRC and then the ordinances from other cities. I read the one from Spokane. And so what I did like, it spelled out very clearly which flags could be flown. And then also it had, I think it was in the 5.0 paragraph about if there were any other banners or type of flags to be flown, it would have to go through a mayoral consent, something to that effect. So I would like to have you bring forward something similar to that to us for discussion at our workshop. Thank you.
Marilyn had her hand up.
Marilyn?
Well, I just wanted to comment on Jonathan's thoughts on this whole subject. And I agree with what he said completely. And I guess I've thought about it a lot, and from my heart, it makes me sad that we are being forced to make these changes because there are certain people that don't understand the meaning of the blue line flag. So I don't know, it's just bewildering to me that we would have to go through all this because there are people that don't understand the meaning, or they have chosen to make it something that it isn't. So that saddens me. So I don't know where this will go, but I think we're in a very sad place.
I tend to agree with that, Marilyn. I appreciated Chief Ventura's statements tonight. And I mean, some of the rhetoric this last week was really terrible. And my heart goes out to all the council people. I know I had some voicemails that were so uncomfortable, I just sent them directly to the chief. And to see issues like this divide our community is heartbreaking, because all of us work every day to bring this community together and to move it forward. And there isn't a face I'm looking at on the screen that doesn't support every department in this city and every man and woman who does the job to make this city better. And so that part is hard, but nonetheless, that's sort of where we were pulled to for whatever reason. And we need to decide what the voices in the community we hear and what we want to do and what our ultimate goal is. Because I think there are a lot of ways to show our law enforcement support. And I think people should show them support every day and honor them for the jobs they do. And so I hope the council can give Paul and Steve some direction on how you want to see that done. And thank you, Chief Ventura.
Jessica.
I feel like at this point, we're kind of at a standstill. It's like all or nothing. Like we're either going to say we have no flags besides just the American flag, or we have all the flags and we have to have policy outlining it. So is there a way to use that to maybe pull code from other cities, sample pieces, and put together something that has both those options? Or do you need one single direction?
You can probably pull some information together for discussion and get some further direction from council once you've seen, what that looks like in writing. Now, we are really across the spectrum tonight, so I know we can't come forward with a policy that's going to outline everything that was discussed tonight, but we will put something together for discussion to move this forward. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yep.
Now, the other thing is that to get this on the workshop, we have a limited amount of time because, of course, the agendas go out in just a few days. So the depth of research is only going to be a small window. And
We appreciate it, and that will give us a workshop to have a more robust discussion on that draft policy. So I want to thank everybody for letting the staff hear your voices this evening, and I want to thank the citizens that took the time to make public comment this evening. After that, Paul, do we have any administrative report?
No other reports.
He's probably already going to work in his head. Is there any comments from council members this evening?
I just had one.
Jan and then Marilyn.
So if we want to give Paul and Steve some ideas or whatever, can we send that to all the council people too, or is that not allowed? So that if I send an email to Paul and Steve and you, can I also send that to the council so they know what I'm saying? Is that okay?
We want to be careful you're not having a public meeting outside that. So I'm going to encourage every council person here to send your information or your comments if you feel the need to Paul and Mr. Peifel. And you don't need to CC. They will gather all of your comments and weigh that in. I think that's a better way to keep you out of violating an Open Public Meetings Act.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, thank you.
Marilyn, did you have your?
Well, that pretty much kind of covered where I was going with that about ideas being submitted. So I'm good.
We have no need for an executive session this evening. Again, I want to thank Chief Ventura for coming here on his week of vacation to make a statement. Very much appreciated.
Thank you, Chief.
And please let your staff know that everyone here this evening fully supports them and is honored that they do the job they do.
Oh, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.